recording, and it is recorded. It's recording. Okay, that's good. So, first of all, Val, I'm pleased to tell you, I knew there was a link. I just couldn't remember what the link was between Bridget and the Tuatha De Danann. So
I'm going to mute myself because of Merlin barking. Sorry.
Okay, that's all right. So Bridget was the son of Dagda. So he was the leader of the Tuatha De Danann in the Irish mythology. So Dagda was the god of life and death, but he was also associated with fertility, specifically to the seasons and agriculture. But he also has deep ties to druidry and magic. Bridget's mother was the Morrigan, triple goddess and shapeshifter associated with birth, death, destruction, and fertility. So that's the link right there between Lugh and Bridget. And I knew there was one, just couldn't remember what it was. So this talk today is about Lugh. Lugh the long arm, Lugh the shining one. He has many names. So there's a really cool song. I cannot for the life of me remember who wrote this, who sings it. But it's really nice. It's really nice. So I might have to cut this bit for YouTube because it might flag it up. I don't know. We shall see. I just hope my voice holds out. So yeah, so I'm gonna sing a little song, and then I'm going to talk about his Lugh's story. Get into some of the correspondences, and then I thought I'd share my journey when I connected with both Bridget and Lugh back in 2018, and some of the experiences that I had when I think I did it over 21 days, every day, checking in with them, meditation, and I had some quite amazing experiences actually. So Lugh of the sun, Lugh of the sky, Lugh of the summer days gone by, Lugh of the harvest, corn and wheat, Lugh of the blazing heat, king of the people, friend of the sheep, father of heroes, son of the sea, giver of vitality, lord of the dance is he. Lugh of the long arm, Lugh of skill, Lugh of courage, unbending will, blacksmith forging the battle spear, warrior revered, king of the people, friend of the sheep, father of heroes, son of the sea, giver of vitality, lord of the dance is he. Lugh of lightning, Lugh of the storm, swift and steady with thunderous roar, Lugh of blackened sky and rain, power of hurricane, king of the people, friend of the sheep, father of heroes, son of the sea, giver of vitality, lord of the dance is he. Handsome champion, eternal youth, fearless leader of strength and truth, host of games, the field events, feast filled with merriment, king of the people, friend of the sheep, father of heroes, son of the sea, giver of vitality, lord of the dance is he. Masterful bard, honey-tongued, musical Lugh, the shining one, plucking harpstrings of sorcery, golden poetry, king of the people, friend of the sheep, father of heroes, son of the sea, giver of vitality, lord of the dance is he, lord of the dance is he, lord of the dance is he. Hello, Smith. Did you like that, Smurfy? No, I didn't.
Murphy. Oh, yes, mummy.
Say woof woof woof. You're supposed to howl with me, darling. No, that's shouting. That's howling, is it? So yes, Lugh. So he's in both the Irish and also the Welsh mythology. So it's like there's two Lughs. There's two Lughs. He's an all-father god. So like Odin or Woden, he's an all-father. So he is the sky. Why? There's many things that he represents when it comes to the sky, but the reason that he's associated with the rain and the sea will become clear later. So he's a sun god, but also a warrior. So he is you could say he's a warrior of light. His mother, her name was, now I'm probably pronouncing this completely wrong, Evrything, but his foster mother was Tailti. His father was Sian, and his foster father was Manannan, hence his link to the sea and other things which will become clear again later. And his grandfather was Balog. So that will all come clear later, because Balog was the leader of the what are they called, the Foo fighters, no, Foo Fomorians, who, funny enough, come from the north, and they're kind of they go like a horde, so they ravage and they pillage. So it's like, it is a kind of a link to the Vikings there as well, because they've come from the north.
Absolutely.
It's quite interesting. And the thing that I found, because I did a lot of this research back in 2018, so I had to find my book with all my notes in it. Trying to find that interesting. I've got so many books everywhere with stuff I've written in. It's stupid. Yeah, it's really interesting. There are many parallels between Lugh's story, Ishtar's story, Sekhmet's story, and even the mythology of things like the Vikings. It is absolutely fascinating. So yeah, Lugh is famous for many things, including the fiery spear of truth, which mythology tells is a bit like the old lightning weapons that are found in the Hindu mythology. So I thought that was, and you know, when this is why I truly believe that the Tuatha De Danann were an ancient alien race, because when you look at the Hindu stories, those mythologies, it's very much, you know, they're in spaceships and they've got the lightning weapons and they're blue. That's why when Ian drew the picture of Bridget, and I didn't even think about it. I coloured her in blue. It's like I didn't even think about that. It just happened. So, you know, if we're making that comparison between the Hindu mythologies and the ancient aliens, and you know, the Tuatha De Danann, who were also known as the Shining Ones, then there are recorded texts of ancient aliens being called Shining Ones. It's fascinating. So this fiery spear of truth was said to be alive, and it never missed. So if you got, you know, this spear, if you were speared by this spear, you were dead. That was it. And this spear was so bloodthirsty that the only way it could be calmed was to be put in a sleeping draught made of poppy seeds. So there's another story that parallels another deity who is a sun goddess who was it was said that she was on a bloodthirsty rampage, and the only way they could calm her down was by giving her a sleeping draught. Sekhmet. And she's a solar deity as well. And it's like, this is really interesting. There's a theme here about calming the sun, isn't there? It's like very interesting. So what I would say is, when these stories were being recorded, if you like, were they experiencing a similar thing to what we're going through right now with this, these solar energies that are happening?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but yeah,
that's all right. No, it's a conversation. That's what it's about. So I really like that parallel there. He also has a sword named the Answerer, which is interesting because he is associated with justice. So the sword of justice. You answer for your crimes, for want of a better word. He also has a sling rod, which is like a slingshot. So the way I would see that, it would be like almost like a mace, but instead of a spiky thing on the end, you'd have like something that you could fling a rock or a boulder with. And he actually killed Balog in the Great Battle with that sling rod, which is interesting. And the sling rod, so this is more evidence of ancient alien stuff, represented the rainbow, but also the Milky Way. So why would a weapon be associated with a galaxy unless they knew about those things?
I'm getting into Star Trek-y stuff now, aren't we?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He also has a self-sailing boat called Wave Sweeper, which is his link to Manannan, obviously. A horse called Enbar, which could cross land and sea. So again, that's his link to Manannan. And he has a hound called Felinis. I'm not sure what the hound is about. I think there were notes in here somewhere about the hound. The hound was given to him by the sons of Turian, the enemy of Tian, who was Lugh's father. Okay, I didn't really look into that very much because there's not a lot said about the hound. So yeah, there is also his Welsh counterpart, who is Lulor Giffis, the bright one with the strong hand. So the two stories kind of start off in different places, but they sort of converge. I mean, when I originally did this research, I didn't look too much into if there was a battle or anything like that went on. But it's really interesting how the two parallel mythologies kind of cross over every now and again, and then go back, and they cross over and they go back. It's really, really fascinating. So Lugh is a wise judge, an overseer of any kind of legal stuff. Also, the thing to remember back then, warriorhood was a very noble and honourable kind of standing in the community, because you know you needed to be very responsible, mature, have skill, wisdom, as well as, you know, conducting yourself in a manner that was befitting to a warrior. And again, that's kind of paralleled in other mythologies as well. But you also needed the skill in magic, which is really interesting. Essentially, you know, the warriors contributed to the well-being of the tribe. And also back then, warriors were men and women, as we know, because Boudica was a warrior. And the Vikings had female shield maidens. So, you know, this idea that it was only the men that were warriors is pish and tosh, is what I'll say. But interestingly, they practiced a form of Celtic martial arts which gave them superhuman abilities. So again, does that not sound like some kind of ancient alien race?
With the superpowers.
Yeah. Superpowers. So in the Irish mythology, Lugh is one of the Tuatha De Danann who are known as the enchanted race. That's what they're known as. So again, you have to wonder, why were they weren't called the Fae, they weren't called the She, they were called the enchanted race. So I have to wonder why, because they were also known as the Shining Ones. So I don't know, it just smacks me in the face and says ancient alien ancestors. It's just so obvious for me.
Do you not think ancient people could have had superpowers though? I'm not saying they're not alien, but we don't know what we've lost, do we?
Absolutely. But they came from somewhere else. They
Right.
were not. So in the beginning of the times, this is how the Irish mythology goes. You know, there were people living on, it talks about just Ireland, but I would have said that would include the whole of this, you know, both islands here. And that the Tuatha De Danann came from somewhere else. So it's like, it's really interesting. And the way they describe Ireland in this mythology, it was like the Summerlands. It was like Shangri-La. It's like the new earth that everyone's talking about now. So it's just amazing to me that you've got, you know, we're having this quite intense solar activity at the moment. We're going through this expansion of consciousness, ascension. I mean, we're seeing nature respond to that in quite amazing ways. Yeah. So it's turning into Summerlands before our eyes, if you like. And this is what, you know, this Irish mythology is talking about. It is just, it blows my mind. So the reason that the Tuatha De Danann arrived in Ireland is they were seeking refuge. So I don't know what they were seeking refuge from. It doesn't say. But they're seeking refuge. So the Tuatha De Danann are the people of the goddess Dana or Danu. So Danu is also connected to the Tuatha De Danann.
Wow.
So Manannán is as well. Bridget, Lugh, Arianrhod is connected to them as well. That gives me goosebumps when I say that.
Wow, yeah.
And I have a suspicion that Rhiannon and Arwen, because Arwen is the king of the Fae, Rhiannon is the fairy queen. Sounds like they're all a bit connected to me.
Yeah, and how interesting that you're choosing now to look into it. You know, with all what you're saying about the sun activity now and the sun activity then, and you're just looking into it now and finding all the connections.
Well, like I say, I did this initial research back in 2018, but I don't think at that time I was connecting with Danu and Manannan. That happened later. I think that might have happened in 2019. But that's the absolute joy of the synchromistic path. So the other thing that lends me to believe that these were beings that hadn't been seen before was they were masters of all crafts. So everything from metalwork to poetry, agriculture to weaving, anything that you could name, they were masters of it.
Wow.
And it's like, and they brought that to the island, Ireland, and I would even say to this whole little bunch of islands here. So then we get all this advance in you know how people lived. It's quite fascinating. So yeah, as a young man, so this is in the Irish mythology. As a young man, Lugh travels to Tara to be part of the court of Nuada, the king of the Tuatha De Danann. However, the doorman will not let him in, because he's a bit, he's a bit full of himself, bless him, because he's got all these skills, yeah. So even though Lugh is multi-skilled, yeah, they will not let him in because they go, no, I've already got one of those. No, I've already got one of those as well. We've already got one of those. We've got one of those too. So he's reeling off all these skills and they're going, no, name's not down. You're not coming in. And then Lugh asks him, well, is there one person in your whole realm there that has all these skills simultaneously? And they went, actually, no. They let him in. So he's kind of brought in front of the king, and the king sets him some challenges. So he does a few contests, wins them all, and is made Chief Ollum of Ireland.
Chief Ollum. What does Ollum mean?
Ollum. It's not clear, but I think that's second to the king. It's like king's advisor almost, I would suggest.
Yeah.
And after the festivities are over, he entertains everyone with his harp. He plays the harp. It's really interesting because the other deity that I have connected with who loves the harp is Ishtar.
Ah.
And you'll see why that's really interesting because they have stories that mirror each other again. So, yeah, Lugh is put forward as the one to lead the Tuatha from the suppression of the Fomorians, the dark ones to the north, who are also sometimes known as the underworld dwellers. So in all the layers of the realms, obviously Summerlands, I would say Summerlands would be a bit like in Norse mythology, that's the Aesir, who are in Valhalla, I think. I don't know my Norse mythology too much, but it's that's the top layer, if you like. And then you've got worlds in between, and then you've got the underworld, which is where the density is, where where the hordes dwell, and where Balor, who is the leader of those Northmen, That's where they live, and he lives in this horrible looking. The way they describe it's very reminiscent of Sauron in the Lord of the Rings. His horde are the orcs. There's even an eye. Balor has a single eye, which when the lid is lifted up by like 20 men, it will kill you. It's like, sounds a bit Sauron-y to me. And nothing grows there. So again, that's Mordor. So I love Tolkien to bits, but and he loved his language, but he was aware of all these mythologies without question. People say it's all about Hitler and the war, but it goes more than that. It's way more than that.
Yeah.
So in this huge battle that happens, Balor is killed by Lugh with his sling rod. So he takes out, basically, he slings the boulder, whatever it is, at Balor's eye, and he basically takes it out. It goes out the back of his head, and where it lands, it kills loads of Balor's horde.
Ooh.
So they all run for the hills, and the battle is won, basically. But many of Lugh's folk are killed in the battle, including Noada, the king. So Lugh then becomes the king. So that's what makes me think that it was like king in waiting type. So obviously back then things worked a little bit differently to what they do now. So Lugh becomes king and he rules for 40 years. So again, I would probably challenge that a little bit. If these were super beings, which is essentially what we are, yeah. Would he have ruled for longer than that?
Yeah.
Because his reign only came to an end when he was drowned in Lugh. Now I'm going to get this completely wrong. Lugh by his wife's lover's sons. So Lugh's wife took a lover. Lugh killed the lover in revenge, and then the sons killed Lugh. What happened after that? Because if he's a super being, he wouldn't have died. But the story ends there, so, or does it? Like in Merlin, the story doesn't end there, obviously. So there's a parallel story that goes with this. So Balor's daughter, Evrything, was kept alone in a tower to preserve her purity. So, no hanky-panky, no nothing, yeah. Except one of the Tuatha, called Shinng, who was a chieftain and a guardian of the sacred cow. So there's another reference to Bridget right there.
Right.
Which is amazing. He'd gone to this wise woman to find out where, because he lost the cow. He was the guardian of the cow. He lost the cow to Balor, and he was a bit cross about himself. It was like, oh my God, how stupid have I been? So he went to this wise woman to see where the cow was, even though he had to get the cow back. Yeah. So when she mixed up a potion, which would have been some kind of a flying potion, so astral travel, and he astral traveled, this Shinng, the chieftain and guardian of the sacred cow, he astral traveled to this tower where Evrything was being kept, and basically fell in love with her, and very soon she was pregnant. Balor was like, oh my God, this is terrible. So when Evrything gave birth to triplets, they were drowned by an agent of Balor's, because Balor had been told by the same wise woman that he was going to be killed by one of his grandchildren. So in order to, stop that prophecy dead in its tracks, he kills Evrything's children, all except the one named Lugh, who was saved by this wise woman. So she had kept the prophecy going, if you like, by saving Lugh. So she would have known that it was Lugh that was going to kill Balrog. Balrog? Balrog? No, that's Tolkien. Balor, sorry. So yeah, Birog was the wise woman's name. So she saved Lugh, and then she passed him to his uncle. Now this is really amazing. When I had to look twice. Govida, not Govinda, Govida. So there's a cigarette paper between the names there. Oh, it's fascinating. So Lugh grew up with his uncle and learned the nature path, like the magic of herbs and all kinds of things like that. And then I think it said he was 7 years old when Manannan turned up on the doorstep and said, "Right, son, you're coming with me," and taught him the ways of the Tuathas Danann. So that's why Lugh has a self-steering boat, horse that can travel over sea as well as land, and why he is king of the sea, because he's the son of the sea. So I thought that was really interesting. And then in the wealth mythology, slight differences. So his mother is Taelti, the great mother. Again, my pronunciation's probably not right. So Taelti, the great mother, gave her people the gift of cultivation. But the strain of sharing this gift actually killed her. But before she died, she declared that her son, Lugh, would pour his spirit into the grain and sustain them through the winter. Hence why he has a link to the harvest. So Lugh married Lodenved, the flower goddess, as he could not marry a mortal because he was a divine being. He was a being that was not like the others, which again, it's like a being that's not like the others. That to me says that there was something very different about him. So alien, ancient alien, I don't know. Or was he just that? Sorry?
Just especially as it's called the Shining One.
Exactly.
That in itself is quite interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
It is indeed. Yeah. Yeah, so because he was of divine creation directly from the Great Mother, he could not marry a mortal. So his uncle Gwydion, who is Arianrhod's brother, so here we go. It's all coming together in a big squishy pile. Gwydion fashioned him a maiden made of 9 flowers. And, they were happy, and the earth was in perpetual summer. So there's that reference again to Shangri-La, Summerlands. Yeah. Until Lodenved fell in love with Hafgun. I don't know who Hafgun is, it didn't say. So they planned to kill Lugh. But as he was, of divine creation, they had to plan his death very carefully, and it was done through trickery, basically. And when he died, in inverted commas, the earth turned to winter. So where do we see that again? Ishtar's story, descent into the underworld. When she descended into the underworld, the light of the world disappeared and it was dark.
Wow.
It's like, oh my God. So this mythology stretches all the way from Ireland, this where we are now in England, all the way through to Mesopotamia. It's phenomenal.
Amazing. Yeah.
So Gwydion searched for Lugh, and because, I mean, and you could say we are the same type of beings. We do not die. The physical body might change, but we do not die. So he actually turned himself into an eagle. So what Gwydion then did is he used his magic to restore Lugh, and then the earth returned to spring again. So that parallel of Ishtar's story and Lugh's story is amazing. Truly amazing.
Perhaps one of the stories as to how we got our seasons then.
Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it?
Kind of. I mean, it's all. I don't know. It just came into my head while I was listening to you. So.
Well, when you think about it, in the solar cycle, the sun in the summer is high up, and when it's like autumn, winter, it's quite low down. So you could say that the sun had died, maybe. And then you got the solstices and the journey into the underworld between Samhain and Yule. It's quite fascinating. So when it comes to correspondences for Lugh, and I'll talk a bit more about, connecting with Lugh, but correspondences, the harp is a big one. When it comes to animals, the crow, horse, lion are all animals that, and I'd also probably put in there eagle, because he did turn himself into an eagle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because of his connection to harvest and grain, that's why Lunasad is first, 2nd, 3rd of August, because that's usually around the first harvest. So the cornucopia is a big symbol of his. Red and yellow flowers, so that's, I'd say, fire and sun.
Yeah, of course.
Grain sheaves, the first fruit and veggies of harvest, because of Lunasad, obviously. Baskets of bread, because it's grain. The cauldron. So the cauldron is a very earth symbol. And this is what makes me think that Arwen is also part of the Tuatha De Danann, because he has a cauldron of plenty, as well as being king of the fairies, So also the sickle or the scythe, which is obviously to do with harvest. Bonfires, because of the fire element there. All grains. Heather is the correspondence. Apples and pears. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I suppose some apples and pears are available in August.
Yes, absolutely they are. Yeah.
I know some are later, but I think my favourite apple actually is available in August, and that's the what was it called? No, it's gone. No, can't remember. Can't remember. Frankincense, because frankincense corresponds to the sun and fire. Sunflowers, marigolds, my favourites. The oak king. Hollyhocks, myrtle. Roses, rose hips, rosemary. Chamomile, safflower. Eucalyptus, which is an interesting one. Although eucalyptus is used for clearing. It kind of makes sense. Passion flower, sandalwood and elder. There are elder flowers everywhere at the moment. I've got to go and do a little harvest actually. Sorry, Val?
Yeah.
Couldn't hear you.
I lost you there.
Oh. So colours: red, obviously fire, golden yellow, green, light brown, gold, bronze, and grey. So grey comes in with the rain and the sky. So that's why grey. The others all make sense, but that's why the grey. Crystals: aventurine, citrine, peridot, yellow diamond, and carnelian.
Very much on the red and yellow spectrum then.
Oh, very much. Yes.
And the green, yeah. Even peridots are quite a yellowy green, isn't it? It's not a blue green at all.
No, it is very yellow green. Yeah. So in regard, sorry.
Our birthstone.
Yes, absolutely. So when it comes to celebrations or ways that you can connect with Lugh, so breaking bread with friends, making corn dollies, harvesting herbs for magic work, which is something I'm going to go and do in the next few days, feasting, like a nice feast, gathering flowers, hand fasting, and games. Spells around prosperity, astrology, because he is an all-father god, so he is a sky god. Generosity, continued success, I like that. Good fortune, abundance. Now I really like this one. Magical picnic.
Oh, nice. I want one of those.
I want one of those too. Maybe we need to have a magical picnic.
I think that'd be a great idea for the summer, yes.
Yeah, you up for that?
I am up for that.
Okay. Yeah. Fabulous. Magical picnic coming up.
Yeah.
And also finishing projects.
Ah.
Interesting. And his day, he has 2 days. Aside from any sun celebration days, Wednesdays, which you might think that's weird, but all father deities tend to have Wednesday as their magical day. Thoth, Odin, Woden, Lugh. That I wouldn't say Thoth is an all-father god, but his thing is all communication and wisdom, which is probably why I would say that's why Lugh's day is Wednesday, but also Sundays as well for the sun, obviously. But Wednesdays, yes, which is corresponds to Mercury, the planet.
Yes, of course, yeah.
So yeah, that's the kind of bulk of what my research was all about. Got a little bit of time left, I think. A little bit of time, yeah. So when I was doing, so I did a few rituals around when I was connecting with Lugh. So one of the things I did, let me just, lots of words. He likes words. Where is it? So yeah, one of the ways you can connect with Lugh, obviously candles, fire, symbols of harvest, but also symbols of your skills.
Oh, from the story of his skills and what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you think of the ways that you want to, the things that you want to learn or the things that you want to improve on. So, you know, the skills that you have, maybe, you know, you want to improve some of those skills, or maybe you want to learn new skills. You know, setting up your altar in such a way that you have symbols of those things that you want to learn or that you want to improve on the altar. And then you can light the candle, you can call upon the blessings of Lugh, and then just sit in the stillness, you know, kind of ruminating, for a better word, on the skills that you have or that you want to improve. And then you can just ask for his guidance when it comes to doing those things, you know, improving skills or learning new ones. But he does like lots of words, and if you can, you know, make them flowery poetry, likes that. So the other thing I was doing when I was connecting with Lugh is very much around meditation. So I was connecting with Bridget and Lugh at the same time. So I would go into meditation, and sometimes it would be Bridget that came up first. Other times it would be Lugh that came up first. So some of the things that I got when I was in meditation is walking over the land next to him, and it was like he was a steadfast friend, very much about igniting that. Well, I suppose what I know now is what I was doing. I was igniting that light inside me so that I could then, and in fact I was made one of his warriors. I was given a suit of armor, and I also experienced, which was quite unusual for me at the time, this very deep sadness about when he was killed. What else? Fire. So the other thing I used when I was doing this connection was incense. So a fire or a sun incense. And I would gaze at the smoke. One time I was gazing at the actual incense as it was bubbling on the surface of the coal. And, you know, that was quite interesting from a meditation point of view.
I'm just thinking, now that the weather's better, could actually sit and do that in the garden, because you know the incense always sets off my thinking smoke alarm, but could do it outside. That'd be really nice.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. You could even set up your hammock.
Yes, my hammock is on the patio.
Very cool. I was also, so during this 21 days, I definitely got a crown chakra activation, and the the crown of sovereignty that Ariane Rod had put on my head was kind of amplified through these meditations. Some days there was more of a connection than others. I was told in one session. Hang on, just a couple of bits. Couple of bits around not holding people's hands all the way through their journey, because at some point they will have to walk by themselves. I also got go and get on with being a queen. As in, not like royalty, but as in sovereignty. Stop talking about it and go and do it. So I got a kick up the arse that day, which is funny. Sorry, well, I've written it in a green pen and it's really hard to read it.
Oh.
Oh dear. Expensive. Oh, that was the day, I think that was the day I was made a warrior. Which is really interesting. Oh yeah, this was amazing. Today I had a huge plop. I was walking up a hill. So I was using nummite and dumortierite for the meditations. But what I realized is I hadn't cleansed them and programmed them specifically for the purpose that I was using them for. So I was getting some really, I was starting to get some quite odd or not as much of a connection. So when I cleanse them and then reprogram them for this specific purpose, the meditations went, it's like, okay. So walking up a hill, calling Lugh, he comes up to me and like a fellow warrior claps me on the back and, did I say steps? Steps, no. And something. Over the hill. So I don't know what that says. It was like I was outside of my body. Then I realized that the person was me, dressed in a gold-colored, lightweight armor, sword by my side. I actually felt that.
Wow.
That was like, wow.
Stunning, isn't it? Yeah. Love it.
Wow. Yeah. And I was told to use my sword to banish any doubts I have around, what I was, my path, basically. So it was quite amazing.
How interesting, Angie, that you said the other night that you have no issues with using banishing spells, etc. And then there you are giving a sword to banish things or banish your doubts. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, both myself, in fact, Henry was as well. Both myself and Ian and Henry, in our soul realignment, we are. So your soul blueprint, part of the manifesting blueprint, there's a scale that goes from invoker to banisher, yeah, and all three of us are right up on the banishing scale.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
So it makes sense, really, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah.
So I'm just scanning this because I waffle a lot in my journal. Some of it's just not It's a bit boring, actually. Yeah, I was getting a lot of energy stuff as well during these meditations, like big pulses in through the left hand and out through the right, which was quite amazing. So
Were you doing those 21 days because you'd had your own soul realignment, or did you just choose to do a 21-day meditation thing?
no, 21's always been a magical number. Both myself and Ian identified that quite early on, after we met, because we were just on this mad journey, especially through 2012, visiting all these ancient sites. It's like, get as many in as we could. And what I know now is what we were doing is we were probably balancing energies there. We didn't realize that's what we were doing.
Yeah.
Because we were driven. We were very driven to visit these places. It was mad. Isn't
it annoying? I don't know if that's quite the right word, but it's just because you're talking about different layers, aren't you? And it's almost like there's another layer that you know now that perhaps you didn't see at the time, which is that you would all, and isn't it interesting? But it's also frustrating because it's like when you do get that draw to go and do something, it isn't, we don't always know why. And it'll be so nice to know.
Absolutely. It'd be nice to have that little check in the back of your head going, yeah. I think that's about it.
I kind of feel I need to listen to the beginning of it again and see if I can draw some kind of family tree, or because there is, like you keep saying, there are so many connections between some of the deities that you particularly link to or feel drawn to.
Absolutely.
It just would be interesting to do a kind of a tree, wouldn't it, of how they're all linked up.
Yeah, I think there are plenty of books out there on the Tuatha De Danann, so you could certainly. I
can't do books, but I'll certainly have a look on the internet. Yeah.
Yeah, but it just fascinates me, because when I did that research, I wasn't connected to Ishtar, I wasn't connected to Sekhmet, I wasn't connected to Danu or Manannan. They've all come later, or Rhiannon even.
The beginning, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to start somewhere, right?
Absolutely. So it's just fascinating how there's so many parallels to this mythology. It's just absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Even with Sekhmet, she is very much about Ma'at, which is the truth and justice and sovereignty and guardianship of the earth, and this awakening that we're all going through right now. And it's like, that's another parallel there. It is just amazing.
Yeah. That's why it fascinates me that I know you've done some of this research before, but you're sharing it now. I guess that's what I'm saying. It's like,
yes,
share the information you have, and it seems like it's so parallel to like our current existence.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's really interesting. And I've really, I enjoy getting my old book out and looking through my notes. That's always an interesting experience.
Yeah.
But I'm really enjoying doing this research for these deities. So I think I'm going to be doing more of this as well as the other stuff as well. I really like it.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Angie. It's
just
right. I love all the. I mean, it won't all stay in there, but in some ways, it doesn't really matter. It's like the connections are made, and yeah,
absolutely.
And I like Lugh, and I think Lugh's very much at this time of the year. That
yes.
it just I'm even looking out the window now, and the light on the trees. It's like the light everywhere at the moment is so
It's gold, isn't it? It's amazing.
It's beautiful, yeah. It's really beautiful.
Definitely. So yeah, and of course, he's a lion.
Well, that just does it then, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Lion, please.
I want to ask you something, but not particularly on the recording because it's not linked to.
Okay. I will stop the recording.
Thank you.